Blessings and welcome. We are here today for another channeled message. I will be channeling today, Priestess Melissa here, and I have my good friend Rosemary. She is joining me today to ask her questions around a subject that I think we probably all have a lot of questions on, and that is, what is the whole deal with this COVID situation? Energetically, spiritually, what is this all about? And we're going to look around and some questions around that today and see what comes through from spirit. So thank you so much once again for joining me. Thank you, Rosemary, for being here today. And what we're going to do is just start out getting into a little bit more of a meditative space before we begin. This will help you to tap in as well as for me to have a chance to just, settle my energies down a little bit before we get into this reading. All right, so if you'll close your eyes with me and take a couple of nice, slow, deep breaths in, hold, and release. Just let all the worries of the day go. Let all that oxygen fill the cells of your body. Allow yourself to feel love just a little bit more in this moment. Allow every muscle in your body to relax as you take another slow, deep breath in. Feeling the life force rushing through your body and blowing away all the denseness, darkness, all the troubles and worries of the day. Calling in the ancestors, way showers, and guides, we thank you for joining us and setting up a circle for this information to come through. Allow it to be received and transmitted in the highest light possible for the healing and for the highest good of all. Blessed be. Thank you, Infinite Spirit. I honor each one of you today and thank you so much for being here as I am continuing with my priestess work. So we're going to get into it, and I'm going to start getting into my channeled state, or more so I should say, and Rosemary is going to start asking me questions, and I will let you know what I'm seeing or what's coming through for me. So thank you once again for your kind support. Whenever you're ready, my dear, you may begin asking questions. I may just take a moment to answer as I tap in.
So what is the real meaning behind COVID? What was it all about?
So I think we've all heard the term that history repeats itself. And what I'm sensing from spirit basically saying is that it's like that insanity cycle that we can tend to find ourselves in, where we're dealing with these situations, and in this case, government control, which is always, through the ages, has been a struggle for all peoples on all levels, energetically, if we think about this. And we go back to even the Holocaust times and we think about those controls that were enacted. And what it really comes down to, on a fundamental level, is really the energy, that, first of all, that leader is holding within themselves. And then we have to consider the energy of the people who were able to be affected by that. And we have to be aware that when we're being led in these ways that are confusing, it's cause for us to stop and really question what's going on. In this case, it's really no more than another form of control. Throughout history, would you not agree? that really has been what it's about. Whether it's people towards one another, it's control. Sometimes it's not quite as, bad as trying to take out a whole population or the world. But even when we're not honoring one another, how we truly feel, when we want to express that, but we feel muted, we feel like we don't have a voice and we can't express or be heard in the way that we deserve to be heard.
Well, I'm proud of all the people that fought and didn't get the shot and lost their jobs. I think that's to show that they can't control all of us. And I love the way people came together. I mean, there were rallies. I would be gone my way to work, and I work in a care center.
Yes.
And they threatened people at our place if they didn't get the shot, they were going to be fired. That they stuck by their grounds, and people didn't get fired where I work.
Absolutely. And
so I'm proud of people for doing that. I mean,
yeah.
It's just amazing, It's just...
And once again, another control issue, right? Another control measure. And it really is on an energetic level what I'm seeing with everything that's been coming out in my messages lately. It really is about this equality and being able to stand in our power and be honored for what we trust and believe in. And we're going to bump up against that, whether it's with another person or whether it's a government entity. There always seems to be that dynamic in place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the nature of this earthly plane, if you will, the duality aspect. And, we're always having to, within ourselves even, decide which side of the fence that we're going to go on, or if we're just going to stay in the middle of it all, not get caught up in any of the chaos, if you will. And that can be a challenge, to stand in your power, to stand in your sovereignty, no matter who you're dealing with, especially if it goes against what they believe. And that's the biggest thing that I see happening here, is breaking that dynamic of control, that overt control, where you're not allowed ultimately to make those decisions that feel best for you. And that's energetically what feels like this is all about.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it put the fear into so many people. I mean, they didn't even come out of their house for a year.
Right. And then now we're at the point where masks are not needed, and people got the shot, and then they were told, well, it can be transferred whether you have a mask on or not, whether you've had the shot or not. And I'm sure that was very confusing to a lot of people, to know that those really stringent measures were in place at the beginning of all of this, and then now to see where we're at and to say, was this really something that we needed to be so concerned about, or was this just like any other flu or anything else that we could potentially contract? That yes, if our bodies are not strong and we're not honoring our bodies, is what Spirit is saying, by eating the foods that is going to keep it healthy and keep it strong, keep the immune system strong. What we always have to remember is when we're not following the laws that have been inherently set in place, not to control us, but so that things can operate most optimally. So when we follow those laws, as far as the foods that we eat, that allow our bodies to be able to repair and regenerate and be able to have that healthy immune system, then there really isn't that need to intervene, because if you think about it, and if we really trust God, everything is under control, and even our bodies would take care of themselves if we were just ensuring that we present the conditions where it can do so. And that's what I really feel that Spirit would like to convey as far as that goes. And you're welcome to put your comments down below and let me know what your thoughts are about all of this. But yeah, I do think there definitely have been a lot of concerns about that. And it's like, in some places like hospitals and Restaurants, certain stores, you still have to wear a mask, you know, and it's mostly, I would say, in healthcare is where I mostly still see it. But then in other places, it's not a big deal. And a year ago, we were in a totally different place. Everybody was almost wearing N95s. In fact, I think the government did send those out to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now all of a sudden, it's like we don't need masks. We don't need to do all of these crazy measures. And then you think about, we don't even really know the numbers when you think about it. I just found it interesting that I was reading an article of a friend of mine's in regards to polio, and how there were all of these same measures that were put into place back in the early 1900s, I believe it was. And what was interesting is, like, really not many people ended up dying from it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And all of these measures were put into place. And yet, you know, at the same time, it's like we get these shots and we've heard of all of these numbers of people dying because we're putting something unnatural in the body. And it's like, what is it that's actually in it? You know, Spirit is telling me that it's definitely, I was hearing a lot. This is such a very sensitive subject for sure. But you just have to consider, like, anytime the government's involved, there can possibly be some, and probably is, something to be concerned about. Think about back in the day when they were, I forget what the drug was that they were given to women, and it was causing infertility. Think about the things, the medicines that even you take nowadays, is what Spirit is saying, that have all of these lists of concerns.
Oxycontin.
Yeah, so many of them, right?
People OD on that, you know.
And what's the alternative? Well, nothing if nobody gives an alternative. But what is really the alternative? You know, Spirit has always said, give your body what it needs to repair and regenerate itself. But is that what we're taught? You know? And so, again, when we are not living by the natural laws, and then, because if we were, our bodies would be healthy, all right? And if we were living, wow, probably, I'm just receiving, it's obviously a lot deeper than just our bodies. It is our minds and our emotions too. And that fear that we have to trust in these entities that really aren't actually helping us. And I think we're all very aware of that. So energetically, it really is more about a control perspective, and that's what I'm receiving with all of this. The way that we're able to be more in control is to really start to live from that perspective, where we're honoring ourselves, we're honoring one another, we're honoring our bodies. We're looking at our thoughts and emotions. We're honoring if we don't feel good or something doesn't feel right. We're speaking up about it, you know? And we're going higher if we have to, you know, because sometimes that's necessary. And usually if you go high enough, there is someone that is willing to listen. That's what I hear Spirit saying. So, like, if you feel forced like these people did, like Rosemary was talking about, having to take the shot or not having a job, you know, there's always a way, is what Spirit is saying. Sometimes it may be a little more difficult for us to navigate what that way may be. But there are certain ways that Spirit is saying that are very apparent. Again, the natural laws of taking care of our bodies is a big one, you know. Responsibility. Yep. We've just gotten to the point where people feel like there is no other alternative but Western medicine. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
I mean, the first thing we think about when we get sick is going to the doctor.
Right. And the first thing the doctor does is prescribe drugs.
Right. And it's still, if you think about it, it still takes time, even when they give you medicine, for it to work and start to do whatever it does. Same thing is true though if you do natural methods, for instance, and herbs and different things like that. I mean, that's what the medicine men and women used to use. You know, and Spirit's saying yes, and all the medications start from a natural base.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the need for all of the other things that confuse our bodies and cause, basically the buildup is what is happening. You're getting this buildup in your body of all the byproducts of these pills that you're taking, right? It's causing the body to then become toxic, and when our bodies become toxic, it's very hard for our immune systems to work properly and to be able to do the job that it needs to.
But wearing a mask doesn't help.
No.
It's hard to breathe in those masks.
Spirit says we were never meant to be concerned about any of those kinds of things, because with a healthy body, when we're again living from the earth, we're honoring the earth by, you know, planting the foods and eating the foods, and our bodies are a byproduct of that. And so when we do that, we're actually living within the laws more so. We're actually taking steps to be more in line with the natural plan and the natural law of things, and helping things to play out in the way that they need to, and in the natural way that they're meant to, especially within our bodies. There is a blueprint, you know, when when that cell or that disease process is inside of your body, you know, in your white bloodstream, that's what's helping to fight off everything. That's your lymphatic system, your white bloodstream, right? You got a red bloodstream and a white bloodstream. We need to be supporting the white bloodstream, all right, to remove all of this stuff from our bodies. One of the best ways you can do that is slow, deep breathing. Literally helps to move everything through your body, through the lymphatic system. And that is going to help to move this disease out of your body. Whatever your body comes up against. Spirit is saying if you are strong and you're following the laws to keep your body healthy, you absolutely will stay strong regardless of what you come up against. And this is a fear that we really is very strong and ingrained, is what Spirit is saying, because it's been set up for a while now, you know, to bring medicine in and all that's went behind in the planning of it, these medicines. We all know the pharmaceutical companies and things of that nature definitely have a profit to be gained, and it's because you get hooked on these medicines, you know, and then the more that we take shots, it confuses our immune system, because if it's not the exact thing that you could potentially catch, you have to be aware that it's not going to help protect you. So now you're confusing your body, subjecting it to all kinds of things that it may not even ever come up against. And then it's genetically modified, so it's not even exactly the same thing. So this is where it becomes very tricky, and this is where it becomes very important for us to take care of ourselves, honestly. We really have to look into things so much more than we think we do sometimes. You know, education, finding out the most that you can about any particular subject, sitting with yourself and even starting to tap into your own abilities to perceive what is right and what is not. And if anything, just think about it on a fundamental level. All you spiritual people and religious people out there, I know you have these fundamental laws also. And are you living in line, is what Spirit would say, with those laws that you say that you hold, you know? Because those are natural protections for us.
Mm-hmm.
calling on God, calling on that protection around us, and then taking the steps, like by eating the foods that will help to keep our bodies healthy, that will help us to live those long lives, right? And really enjoy this life. But yes, I do feel control is a big part of it. What else do you think, Miss Rosie? Do you have any other questions around that?
No, you hit it right on the nail.
Well, let me see what else is coming through. I'm just going to sit for a moment. If you think of anything else, feel free to ask.
Well, so many people died and they said it was COVID, but I don't feel it really was. I think that they all died of COVID. I don't feel that all those people really did die of COVID.
No, it wasn't COVID itself. As we were hearing in the news, you know, a lot of people were suffering fluid accumulation, and particularly in the lungs. So essentially what was happening is the cell walls were breaking down, is what was happening. They were becoming weak, and then it was causing this chain reaction, if you will, of basically an internal flooding. And depending on, you know, whatever processes, you know, in people's bodies to begin with. And it was just making it worse, basically.
Well, fear didn't help. A lot of people
No.
feared it, and they feared that they were going to die, and that's what happened.
And fear compounds it. From a physical perspective, fear compounds it. Yeah, Spirit is definitely helping me to see that based on just what I know about the physical body and the way that stress and fear plays on that. Because you have to think, we didn't just have the fear of COVID. We then also had the fear of our money, our stability. There were so many things, lots of chills right now, that were causing that fear to be exasperated. And that's exactly what this shot feeds on, is fear. And for those people who are especially anxious, these are the people that it can cause that breakdown. I just see it like a snap, almost like a snap would happen in the brain if somebody got lost it mentally. I just see this as a snap within the body, as far as, you know, like that dam breaking and not being able to be strong like it needs to be. And so it causes, with this stress, it does cause this chain reaction of this internal flooding. That's the natural order of stress. And it starts to break everything down. And then this COVID shot can exasperate it. That's exactly what I'm receiving right now. And then depending on your state of health, depends on how you could fare through it. Long-term effects, though.
Well, even people that got the booster still got COVID. They had 2 shots and they got the booster and they still got COVID.
There's always something being manufactured. Well, even if it's not being manufactured at this point, the mutations, they're not going to ever be able to keep up with that. Because as it goes through different people, it's going to change a little bit. It's just a way to get people confused. They don't want us to have the freedoms that we have. If they can get us in a state of upheaval enough, and martial law can be enacted, these are testing measures to see, like, what's the breaking point? Just like the breaking point inside the body, what's the breaking point of each person before they snap? Yeah.
And the news doesn't help.
Exactly. Numbers. Always throwing numbers out. Absolutely. Because you see those numbers and how can you not focus on them? You know, again, another fear tactic. And government is the one who owns the media. So what are you going to do about that? And how do you know if what they're telling you is true or if the numbers are real?
We don't know.
You literally would have to do your own independent research, right, into this. Know what you're looking for. Know who you could trust to get the information from. You know, when we come back to just what is basic and simple and true, it really is a natural protection for us. That's what I have seen time and again when I don't play into that fear, when I allow myself to ask Spirit what is best for me. And there was a lot of fear, especially around people having to lose their jobs, and particularly in healthcare. And that should never have been the case. And now,
well, we both work in healthcare, you and I.
Yeah.
So.
And now it's very interesting to see this dynamic where, you know, they're saying that people are going to travel now because it's like, well, if you've got to put yourself in the same circumstances, why not at least make it worthwhile?
Mm-hmm.
I can totally agree with that for sure.
Well, I'm glad they are, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to have to go into the trenches and you're doing that work, and, you know, again, on an energetic level, Spirit always says, be aware of your set point energetically. You know, that has been shown time after time that these doctors can go into the sickest places, you know, but they have a good attitude and they don't believe that they can be affected by the disease process. And guess what? They're not.
Mind over matter.
Mind over matter. Oh yes, there's a lot of power in that, isn't there?
Yes.
Absolutely. And the more that we can tap into that and practice that, Spirit is saying the more that we'll be able to trust our intuition, trust our knowing, trust when that truth is coming through, and also have the steps to know how to deal with it in the most proper way. You know, like the people will, you know, and ask for Spirit to bring these people to you, you know, these situations and protection. Just like we're meant to follow natural laws for eating and things of that nature, we're meant to do so for when we need things, when we need help. You gotta ask for it, right?
I know. I think that's used to be really hard for me, but now I ask. But I think that's hard for us to do.
It can be, because not everybody is so open to helping is the other thing. Many of us have had to fend for ourselves. And yeah, you still see that, unfortunately. And really, we just have to all remember that we are equal and we all need love. We all need understanding and compassion, right?
Right.
And the more that we can just, first of all, do that for ourselves. Okay, let's just make sure we're doing that for ourselves first, because that is utmost importance. But this positive energy will absolutely, and I know you can attest to this because again, we both work in healthcare, very rarely get sick whatsoever, either
Right.
one of us, all right? And, you know, yeah, go ahead. No, I want to hear what you
No,
have to
like
say.
people would tell me, well, she has this disease and she's kissing you. And I said, so?
Yeah.
Well, I never got it. I'm fine.
You could just easily
I'm
not
still-
even know that she has it,
I'm
right?
still going to hug people. I'm still going to be who I am. I'm not afraid.
It's
I
interesting.
don't fear it.
So like you could tell somebody that somebody has, I don't know, some kind of thing that you could catch, right? And oh, you can't touch them or else, you know, you'll get it. But if somebody doesn't tell you, it's very interesting. You could still touch that person. Nothing happened because you just didn't even give any thought to it. No fear.
Right?
Right?
Right.
There's
Exactly
so
right.
much power that is unseen. Yes, we can't explain how it is, but it is. And when we can start to really tap into that, Spirit is saying, you will be completely amazed at what you see, what happens, the protection.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, things just worked out for you and you're like, I'm not really sure how that happened, but thank you.
Yes. But that's the key. Always be thankful for everything.
Absolutely. Well, I will say, in regards to all of this, once again, I just am receiving from Spirit that it's a fear tactic. It's no different from a person in your environment trying to bully you, and if you wouldn't let somebody in your environment bully you, just know that you have the power to stand up to whatever it is, all right? And you can do that in that peaceful protest way, right? We're sovereign. This is our decision. I'm not fighting you on it, but this is my decision and I'm sticking by it and you can't force me, all right? And I think that is the energy that we could all use to tap into more today. Don't you agree?
Yes, I agree.
This has been a beautiful meeting. Thank you so much for being here, Miss Rosemary.
Thank you. I'm blessed
Asking
to
me
be
these
here.
questions, and thank you, Spirit. I honor you, ancestors, way showers, and guides. Would you just join me in thanking everybody for being here? Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Spirit. We honor you. Blessed be, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye for now.